They really don't like this woman. She's a good communicator. And so Joy Behar just offered her analysis on why Leavitt was picked for the role.
For weeks, the ladies of The View treated Karoline Leavitt's jaw-dropping $800 million lawsuit like it was some kind of stand-up routine. They laughed, they scoffed, they literally rolled their eyes on live TV, acting like it was just another dramatic stunt from a conservative trying to stir up headlines. But oh, how the tables have turned. Behind the scenes, the same women who mocked it all, now they're allegedly panicking, like real meltdown mode. Word on the street is that some of them are even begging Leavitt to let it go. Yup, you heard that right. The ones who called it a joke are now trying to make it disappear before it blows up even bigger. So what happened? What turned their confidence into chaos at ABC and inside The View's own dressing rooms? Let's rewind. When the lawsuit first came out, the vibe on set was pure cockiness. Joy Behar led the charge. Arms crossed, mouth locked and loaded. She threw serious shade, saying conservatives always play the victim, then hit him with the most over-the-top eye roll like she was on Broadway or something. Whoopi Goldberg barely even flinched. She let out a sarcastic sigh and mumbled a line that made it clear she thought the whole thing was beneath her. Like, please, not this again. Just another day, another fake outrage, right? Then there's Sunny Hostin, the one who's supposed to be the legal brain of the show. Even she brushed it off fast.
I have to stop you with the camera because I can see you. So do me a favor, don't pull it out again. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
It has no legs to stand on, she said with full confidence, like she already read the last page of the book. No hesitation, no nuance, just a straight up dismissal. The entire panel acted like the lawsuit would vanish faster than a trending hashtag. But behind those polished smiles and teleprompters, things were bubbling, and now it's boiling over. Nobody expected Leavitt to go this hard. Nobody expected the legal team behind her to be this relentless. And most of all, nobody thought viewers at home would actually take this lawsuit seriously. But now, with online chatter growing and lawyers circling like sharks, those same bold voices from the table, they're looking a whole lot quieter off camera. This ain't just some tabloid drama anymore. This is the kind of legal pressure that could shake things up in real ways. And if the rumors are true about hosts calling her behind the scenes, that's not just panic, that's straight up fear. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just straight up mockery. And for a minute, it looked like they were actually right. All the big name liberal networks, CNN, MSNBC, you name it, they jumped on the bandwagon fast. They trashed the lawsuit as frivolous, pathetic, and just another conservative move to silence free speech. Legal pundits piled on too, clowning the case like it was already 6 feet under. But behind those bright studio lights and all that forced laughter on camera, something way different was happening. ABC's legal team, yeah, they weren't laughing, not even close. While the host kept smiling for the cameras, upstairs was a full-blown crisis mode situation. Panic, emails, meetings, more panic. Why? Because they actually read the lawsuit, every page, every quote, every detail. And once the legal team finished combing through it, they knew this wasn't just some noisy headline grab. This thing had real weight. It wasn't just a publicity play, it was a ticking bomb. Insiders say ABC's lawyers were shook, like seriously concerned, and for good reason. The defamation claims, way tighter than the ladies on The View thought. We're talking word-for-word receipts, direct quotes, and timelines to back it all up. If even one piece of it stood strong in court, it'd be a legal disaster.
Isn't it rich that The View is saying she got the job based on looks when DEI is all about based on looks?
Suddenly, this wasn't a joke. It was a real threat, one that could cost the network big, like hundreds of millions big. And that's when ABC's legal crew hit the gas, doubling down, prepping for a courtroom war that could stretch for years. So while the hosts kept cracking jokes, the folks behind the scenes were scrambling, praying this thing didn't blow up the whole building. That's when the vibe really flipped. Execs at ABC stopped brushing it off and started whispering about something they'd hoped to avoid: settlements. Suddenly, there were late-night emergency meetings, damage control strategies, and tight-lipped briefings behind every closed door. The same people who had once rolled their eyes at Karoline Leavitt, now they were getting coached hard on exactly what to say on air. The confidence was cracking, and it was starting to show big time. Meanwhile, the hosts on The View kept up their "it's no big deal" act for the cameras, laughing, downplaying, acting unbothered. But behind the scenes, total chaos. ABC's legal squad was in full scramble mode. This wasn't just another media buzz story. This lawsuit was a real threat, and everyone in the building knew it. Inside private conference rooms, behind locked doors, the energy was tense. ABC's lawyers weren't joking around anymore. One insider said it straight: "We take all legal matters with the utmost seriousness and are committed to addressing them in a thorough and professional manner." Sounds polished, but translation: we're in deep. This wasn't some conspiracy theory cooked up for likes. Leavitt came prepared with actual receipts. We're talking official documents, internal memos, sworn statements, and straight up defamation claims that had real teeth. Her legal team wasn't bluffing, not even a little. They were locked in and moving like they had nothing to lose. And ABC, they were sweating because they might just have everything to hide. This wasn't something they could laugh off anymore. Not even close. One insider from inside the building dropped the bomb. There's real weight to this, and they weren't exaggerating. The second ABC's legal crew got a full look at the lawsuit, alarms went off everywhere. Panic took over. Execs were freaking out. If this thing ever made it to trial, it wouldn't just be about what was said on TV. It would open the floodgates. We're talking private emails, backstage convos, and unseen footage. Stuff the public was never supposed to know about. Suddenly, this wasn't just a defamation case. It was a potential full-on exposure of ABC's dirty laundry. And when that realization hit, boom.
For me, and sort of lived lives of dreams deferred and poured everything in me, and just my life, how I transitioned from college. I went to college when I was 16, high school when I was 12, the struggle of that, and my career as a federal prosecutor, and then how I found my way.
Chaos. Behind closed doors, the top dogs at ABC split into two totally different camps. On one side, you had the tough talkers, the risk takers. They wanted to take it all the way to court, convinced they could shut it down and walk away spotless. They were riding high on ego, thinking they'd crush it with legal firepower and PR spin. But the other side, the realists, they knew better. They'd seen how these cases spiral, how one leaked message turns into 10 headlines, and how fast public opinion can flip. They weren't trying to roll the dice. They wanted a quiet settlement, fast. No court, no press, no circus. Just cut a check, sign some papers, and bury it before the media caught wind of the real mess. And the hosts, where were they while all this was exploding behind the scenes? Still on stage, cracking up, tossing out jokes, treating it like just another crazy conservative moment. One exec even spilled, "We're already making moves behind their backs." Yup, they weren't even clued in. While they laughed into the cameras, the higher-ups were already working around them, trying to seal a deal before things exploded. But the real shock hit when the whispers finally made it to the green room, and word got out that ABC was seriously eyeing a settlement with Karoline Leavitt. Not a denial, not a public fight, a deal. And just like that, the tone in the building started to shift again. Because if they were ready to pay, it meant she had something real. It sent shockwaves through the whole building. Whoopi Goldberg, the queen bee of that panel, totally lost it. For weeks, she'd laughed off Karoline Leavitt's lawsuit like it was comedy hour, said it was nothing serious, just another loud conservative looking for attention. But now, her own network was talking about cutting a check. Whoopi felt blindsided, betrayed, and she wasn't the only one ready to snap. The tension between the on-air crew and the top execs hit boiling point. This was no longer just about legal drama. It was about loyalty, pride, and who really runs the show. Inside ABC, things were on fire. Whoopi, furious. And this time, it wasn't for ratings. Behind closed doors, she erupted during a high-stakes emergency meeting with ABC execs. "Are you kidding me? We're actually taking her seriously?" she shouted, her voice slicing through the room like a blade. This wasn't just a lawsuit to Whoopi. This felt personal. She'd carried The View for decades, held it down through scandal after scandal, took hit after hit, and every time ABC backed her. From cancel culture mobs to viral backlash, she'd stayed standing, untouched. But now the same network that always had her back was thinking of folding, backpedaling, throwing money at someone she thought was irrelevant. To Whoopi, this wasn't just legal trouble. It was a slap in the face, a threat to her legacy, and she wasn't the only one losing it. Joy Behar stormed into her dressing room like a damn hurricane. She slammed her makeup bag on the counter so hard it burst open, brushes flying everywhere. The anger in the room, undeniable. The trust, broken. Things were falling apart fast. We built this damn show. She snapped, her voice shaking with fury. We made this network millions, and now they're folding over some stupid lawsuit? Joy Behar was red-faced, pacing, barely holding it together. The rage in her voice said it all. After all these years of loyalty, all the success, all the battles they fought on air, ABC was ready to toss them aside like nothing. And Joy, she wasn't about to let that slide. To her, this wasn't business. This was a battle. Even Sunny Hostin, the calm, composed legal brain of the table, was visibly shaken. Her poker face? Gone. That law degree of hers? It kicked in real quick. And what she saw in Karoline Leavitt's case had her spooked. As a former federal prosecutor, Sunny had seen all kinds of lawsuits, but this one, it wasn't just risky, it was airtight. She'd read through the entire thing herself, line by line, transcripts, emails, witness statements, internal messages, and the worst part, some of it pointed directly at private convos they'd all had off camera. Stuff they thought would never see daylight. If this lawsuit made it to court, every casual side comment, every sarcastic joke they made backstage could be dragged into the spotlight. This wasn't just about fines or headlines, it was about reputation, about legacy. Everything they'd worked for was suddenly on the line. Then came the curveball. In a scramble to clean up the mess, The View's producers pulled together a last-minute emergency segment. The plan: go soft, dial back the heat, pretend it was all a misunderstanding, hint that maybe they'd been misunderstood, and flip the script, make themselves look like the real victims in the middle of a media frenzy. No apology, no accountability, just a rushed, clumsy attempt at damage control, and it totally flopped. Viewers felt the shift, the usual sass and sarcasm gone. Instead, awkward pauses, shaky voices, and forced smiles. The confidence was cracked. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt, she was just getting started. The same host who had mocked her lawsuit for weeks, Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny, suddenly weren't laughing. Gone were the smug smirks and snarky comments. What replaced them? Nervous glances and tension you could cut with a knife. The shift was obvious the second the camera started rolling. The empire was crumbling, and for once, the hosts were trying to play it safe. Look, Whoopi began, her tone shaky. I think we all need to take a step back. There's been a lot of unnecessary hostility, and frankly, this isn't good for anyone. This wasn't the same bold Whoopi from before. She sounded like she was trying to walk it all back, quietly, but by then, the audience wasn't buying it. The damage was done. Then came Joy, the same woman who'd laughed off the lawsuit as a stunt. Her silence now spoke louder than any punchline, but now, no jokes, no sarcasm. Joy's voice was tight, her vibe totally off. I don't know why this has to go so far, she said, staring into the camera with a tense look. Can't we just sit down like adults and talk this out? It was a full 180 from the fiery, unfiltered Joy the public knew. She was clearly cracking under pressure, and she wasn't alone. Sunny Hostin, usually cool and calculated, looked shaken. Leaning forward, she spoke slowly, carefully picking her words. Karoline, she began, if you're watching, I truly believe there's a way to settle this without dragging it through court. Maybe it's time we all find some common ground. That moment? Stunning. The same women who had mocked Karoline, called her delusional, laughed at the lawsuit, were now offering olive branches on national TV. But let's be real, it wasn't about peace. It was about survival. Behind the scenes, ABC's legal team had been working around the clock, laying out cold, brutal facts to top execs. The truth? If this case moved forward, it wouldn't just be a court issue. It'd be an all-out war, a public disaster, one that could tear ABC apart from the inside. The fallout wasn't just aiming at the hosts. It was about to rip open ABC's darkest closets. Internal emails, private meetings, off-air comments. All of it could be dragged into the light. Everything the public was never supposed to hear or see. That's what the execs were now staring down. And it didn't stop there. The hosts themselves, they were now in the line of fire too. Every offhand joke, every sarcastic jab at Karoline, those little moments they thought were harmless, they could be subpoenaed and played back in a courtroom. No spin, no PR magic, just raw footage and receipts, ready for the world to judge. So what did they do? They flipped the script fast. Gone were the smug eye rolls. In their place, sad eyes, shaky voices, sudden let's all get along energy. The hosts who once mocked Karoline like she was a punchline were now trying to play the role of tearful peacemakers. But the internet wasn't having it. Viewers saw straight through the act. The shift was obvious and messy. Even the studio audience felt it. The laughs sounded hollow. The banter, flat. That fearless, sassy energy The View was known for, gone. Replaced with tension, side eyes, and a whole lot of paranoia. They're scrambling. One insider said, the hosts are trying to hold it together on air, but backstage, it's total chaos. Calls, emergency meetings, legal teams, media strategists, they're trying everything, but nothing's working. And the craziest part, Karoline Leavitt hadn't even clapped back yet. She was letting them twist in the wind. By now it was obvious. This wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. This was a battle. This wasn't just about a lawsuit anymore. It was about power, control, and who really calls the shots. Media giants or the ones brave enough to call them out. Karoline had flipped the whole game on The View, and now their empire, it was falling apart. Laughter turned to panic, smug eye rolls, swapped out for desperate on-air, please let's talk energy. When ABC aired the segment, the internet lit up. Viewers didn't forget the mockery. They remembered the jokes, the sarcasm, and now all they saw was fear. Twitter, or X now, went off. One viral post read, if you weren't guilty, you wouldn't be begging. Y'all flipped faster than a politician during election week. Brutal, but that was just the start. TikTok joined the roast. Clips of Whoopi's on-air plea were turned into comedy gold. One creator slapped circus music under her shaky delivery. Caption, when your PR team forces you to act humble. Another video did a side-by-side of Joy laughing one week, then backpedaling the next. Captioned, when your lawyer actually reads the lawsuit. Even ABC's official Instagram post got torched. The comments, unforgiving. This isn't empathy, this is panic, one wrote. Another said, crocodile tears. Should have thought of that before you ran your mouth. Even longtime fans weren't buying it. The whole thing felt fake, staged, too late to fix anything. And the memes, everywhere. One viral image showed a sweating Whoopi sitting in a fake courtroom, captioned, me realizing defamation lawsuits are actually real. Another meme went viral. Sunny Hostin clutching a law book titled How Not to Get Sued 101. But this wasn't just a social media roast anymore. Conservative media jumped in fast. Fox News dropped a whole multi-part segment called The View Unravels, with legal experts breaking down every dramatic shift, every nervous glance, every desperate plea. The Daily Wire didn't hold back either. They called the hosts out for being arrogant, hypocritical, and scared. One headline hit hard. When the joke stops, The View collapses under legal pressure. Even independent creators were going in. A YouTube video titled The View's Pathetic Damage Control Attempt racked up over 2 million views in 24 hours. The creator, a lawyer, broke down their body language, word choice, and timing. His conclusion? This wasn't about justice. It was about dodging a lawsuit. And the public? Oh, they'd made up their minds. The View's credibility? Wrecked. The internet saw right through it, and no PR stunt could clean up the mess. Karoline Leavitt hadn't even spoken publicly yet. She didn't need to. The hosts were doing all the talking with their fear, and it was louder than words. ABC's legal team was underwater. Execs were split. Try to settle under the table or go all in and prep for a courtroom brawl. But either way, one thing was painfully clear. Their crown jewel was crumbling. This wasn't just a headline. This wasn't just bad press. It was a full-blown crisis, an existential threat to The View and everyone tied to it. Ratings were dropping, sponsors were pulling out, and ABC's top execs were spiraling. If Karoline Leavitt's $800 million lawsuit went to trial, it wouldn't just be a PR disaster. It could expose everything. Private emails, closed-door meetings, behind-the-scenes footage, all of it at risk. And it wouldn't just ruin reputations, it could end careers. The View, once ABC's crown jewel, was now cracking under the pressure. Meanwhile, Karoline stayed silent, watching it all unfold. The same woman they laughed at was now holding the upper hand, and she didn't even need to say a word. Every desperate apology and awkward pivot only made her case stronger. The internet had flipped, and ABC had lost control of the story. If this goes to court, and signs say it will, things could spiral for months, maybe years. The longer it drags out, the more dirt comes to light, and the more the empire crumbles. So, can The View survive? Or is Karoline Leavitt about to pull off the most shocking takedown in TV history? Let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because if this hits court, trust us, the drama's just getting started. See you next time.